Welcome to Bunny Hugs and Mental Health, the podcast that deals with all things mental health. We talk to professionals, survivors, and loved ones about their sometimes informative, sometimes uplifting, and sometimes tragic stories. I'm your host of the show, Todd Rennebaum, advocate, recovering addict, experienced sufferer of depression and anxiety, and author of the children's book, Sometimes Daddy Cries. Hello, I am Todd Rennebaum, and this is Bunny Hugs and Mental Health on the Saskatchewan Podcast Network. Now, the Saskatchewan Podcast Network has all types of wonderful Saskatchewan-based podcasts that you can listen to, so go check them out. Thank you so much for listening, and if you like this podcast, if you like this episode, please, I insist, share it. That's what this whole podcast is about, is trying to get others to relate to others so they don't feel alone in their mental health needs. And so please, go ahead and share this anytime you want. Now, before I begin to talk about this episode, I'd just like to talk about a few upcoming episodes. On the next episode, I am speaking to Zach Williams. You may know his father, the actor Robin Williams. Zach Williams is talking to me about addictions and some of the things he's overcome regarding addictions. Another upcoming episode is with a lady named Jessica. She grew up in a household with a severely mentally ill mother, and she was in and out of foster homes and had to move around a little bit, and she even had to take care of her brother for long periods of time while her mother was getting treatment and help. And now herself has some mental health issues, and she discusses that, and she's just a really sweet lady. She works in addictions and mental health. Episode after that, I'll be talking to Michael Landsberg. He was the host of a television show on TSN called Off the Record. He's now a mental health advocate, and he has his own charity called Sick Not Weak. Really great guy, and I look forward to posting all those episodes up for you. This week, however, I am talking to the Johnson family. There is Garth, Kathryn, and Teague. They do have another son, but we don't talk to him. Teague is Garth and Kathryn's son. He has autism. He also has been diagnosed with ADHD and a few other things. Met Teague and his family at the beginning of summer. Teague works in a garden with me, where he kind of goes for a respite, and his family goes for a respite, and he gets a little social time. We became quick friends, so at any point in the interview you hear something about a garden, that's what we're talking about. So at first I talked to him. I think he's 21 years old. I talked to him a little bit about some of his issues and things, and then I speak to his parents, Garth and Kathryn. Garth is the CEO of Autism Canada. Autism is a unique multinational IT consultancy and social enterprise which exclusively employs autistic adults as IT consultants. So that's a pretty amazing company there. And Kathryn is an administrator and an advocate for people with all types of different disabilities. She's done lots of speaking with United Way and some other organizations. So they're really involved family and just really great people. So, without further ado, I give you the Johnson family. Talk about your friend Craig again?
Yeah, because he has an event like something like makes him like remember like the movies and when they're from and who acts in it.
So he has a really good memory for movies.
Yeah,
but maybe not other things, but for some reason movies.
He like stores it in his head, and if you ask him any question for like a movie, like he knows.
Right.
You're not like that.
Right. Do you have anything like that? You said you're kind of good with tech and IT stuff.
Yeah.
So as far as like mental health issues, you like have ADD or OCD, and like I know you get anxiety bad. That's why you have your little earbuds.
No, those are for my it's for my disability, my hearing disability.
But sometimes you do.
Because my ears are partially damaged, and that means I'm partially deaf. So that's why I wear them. So I can speak clearly.
Right. Oh, okay.
And so people don't hear me mumble.
But you do listen to music sometimes, right? Like I've seen you in the garden.
Yeah, you can listen to music like through them. And you can still hear the person talking to you, and you can talk back to them when you're listening to the music.
And does the music help you with your anxiety or anything?
Yeah, and it just makes my anxiety go gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
So what kind of stuff gives you anxiety? Being recorded and asked questions?
No, not really.
Oh, okay, good. Well, you said like crowds, you don't like going to Rough Rider games?
No, yeah, because when I'm around like lots of people, it just makes me really anxious and like feels like I'm like trapped somewhere and I can't get out.
So would music help with that, or is that too much anxiety? Even the
It's
music?
just too much. I can't be around like so many people. Like if it's like 50 or 400 people, no.
What about the boat? Being on the water, you don't like either?
I don't mind it. It's just not my favorite thing to being out on the water.
Does it give you anxiety, or you just don't like it?
Just don't like it. And heights does like when I'm really high up, that gives me like some anxiety. Like it goes like here, not like somewhere like near the bottom.
Right. When you're at school and you have to talk in front of your class or anything, does that give you anxiety?
No, if it's people I know and the like friends I trust, my anxiety doesn't go up. It just stays down. It's like because they're the people I know and trust them, and they're always around me, and then because they're there to help me. So
right. So you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Have you been diagnosed with OCD or anything like that too?
I believe so, and ADHD.
Okay.
Sometimes when I'm nervous, I chew my fingernails.
Right. Oh yeah.
And like start to pick things with my fingers.
Right. Yeah, I've seen you picking before.
But sometimes when I pick my fingers, I just do it because I feel like it.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't. Like sometimes I don't do it when I'm anxious.
Right. Okay. I know that you obsess a bit about video games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have an addiction to technology, so I can't be anywhere without it. It just helps me calm down.
Like using your phone and video games and stuff, that it's kind of like listening to music. It helps you get grounded and chills you out.
Yeah.
What's your favorite video game?
I don't really have one right now. That's a difficult question, and I don't really know.
Well, what were you just playing? What were you just showing Jack?
A game called Returnal. It's basically like Groundhog's Day, but like every time you die, you respawn back there. But when you go through, the area changes where you explored through.
So you're reliving the same day, but it changes every time.
But the area, like where you explored, changes.
Huh.
But you respawn back to your ship, but the area you explored, it changes all to a different layout or land.
When the music you're listening to calm you, is there a certain type of music you like?
No, some music calms me down.
Even gangster rap?
Yeah, except that. That just makes me just gets me pumped.
Right. Get you ready. Do you ever feel depressed? Lonely?
Pretty much, yeah. Since my brother moved out, I don't feel like I feel really lonely. Don't have anyone there to hang out with.
Right. So he was probably your closest friend growing up, is your brother?
Yeah.
And how long ago did he move out?
Not around the age of 20 or 20, 21 or something like that. I don't know.
How old is he now?
Like,
He's like a few years older than you?
I think he's like 3 years older than me.
Okay. So he moved out, what, 3 years ago?
Actually, oh, he's not. Yeah, he's 3 years older than me. I thought he was like 2, but no, he's 3.
Oh, okay. But you have your friend Craig and stuff. Like, do you feel lonely when you're in Calgary or more when you're here?
Like when I'm by myself.
Right. Doesn't matter what.
So like I basically text like somebody, like Jack, to say like just hang out, so I don't feel like lonely and like a little bit depressed, I guess.
And do you have other friends that have autism that have been depressed before and feel that same kind of loneliness sometimes?
Not so sure.
Has Craig ever felt depressed?
So, once, but I don't know when that was. But he was one of my closest friends that I've ever had, because I've known him like since like elementary.
Right.
So like 11 years, I think.
And you guys feel pretty comfortable with each other?
Yeah. When I play, I basically when I go to his, I play video game, and he does his own thing, and I do mine. And that makes me happy and calm and chill. And my anxiety it's just like permanently gone when I'm around him.
Do you miss school? Being in school?
No.
Okay.
It's like a prison in there.
Okay, I just thought maybe being at school, you were around friends and stuff, and it made you feel calm.
You're around friends, but it feels like you're trapped.
Yeah. Okay.
But when you're not in school, you're like free as a bird, and you just get to like, well.
But you get lonely sometimes. You were never lonely in high school, were you?
No.
Okay. So that's kind of the flip
When
side. You're
when
free
I
as a bird, but you get lonely
When I was
sometimes.
in high school, my brother was still living with me.
Oh, right, yeah, okay. So you really miss your brother. That makes you lonely.
Yeah.
Sometimes heights and crowds bother you. Boat bothers you. Have you ever been a victim of like being picked on by other people or for your disability?
I've been picked on like once, like when I went to like Citadel Park, my first like school that I know I went to when we moved into like Citadel in Calgary. It was like my first day, and this kid came running up at me and jumped on my back and grabbed me like.
To beat you up, or?
No, he just jumped on me.
Huh.
For no reason.
Huh.
But
because he knew you had a disability, or?
no, he just did like out of nowhere.
Oh, I see.
And then he hit like my back, like my spine was like up, and then he got bleeding nose and everything.
So he got a bleeding nose from jumping on your back. Were you okay?
Yeah, I was fine.
But no one's ever like called you names or teased you or.
Well, in high school, like my friend did that to me once. He said, like, I'm Teague and I'm partially deaf. And I told my teacher, and she got really pissed at him. Like, she wasn't happy at all. Like, her face was just
right,
like
red,
like infuriated, like furious. She doesn't tolerate that type of like
rude, being picked on, bullying.
Yeah.
Was your friend that said that? Is she disabled?
He.
Oh, he. Sorry. Is he disabled or having?
He has a disability.
Or disability? I mean, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But he's like 6'1" or 2", like weighs over like 180 pounds or something. 160, somewhere around there.
Normally, you guys get along though.
I mean, do get along, but it's just sometimes we don't.
Yeah, I have friends like that. We bug each other.
He wasn't really my friend though. He was.
Just a classmate.
Kind of a bully to me.
Oh.
He got me into trouble and everything. Every time I hanged out around him, I got in trouble. For no reason.
Has anybody that doesn't have a disability made fun of you? That's good. Man, when I was your age, if you were like in my class, they'd be jerks and being all rude. That's nice. You didn't have to worry about that. You obviously don't feel like you have a disability, do you? Like when you see other people and stuff, you like.
No, I feel like I'm just like every type of like
everyone else.
Yeah.
So you don't like see someone and be like, oh, I wish I was more like them.
Like I wish everybody would treat like everybody that had a disability like a normal person.
Right.
Then it would be all fair, and then nobody would.
Mm-hmm. Do you hate when people talk to you like a baby? Like you are different or something, like, hi, Teague, how are you?
Yeah, that just like makes me really, really ticked off.
I've seen you ticked off.
It's like an exploding volcano, like kind of ticked off.
Right. I've never treated you that way, have I?
No.
Yeah, that's why I like me, because I treat you like everyone else, right? Plus, I'm good looking.
Yes. You are, though.
Okay. Hey, that's something. Does it make you sad? Like, do you wish you had a girlfriend at all? Or does that bother you at all?
Actually, I do. Kind of. I do.
So that makes you...
So then...
You get a little sad thinking about that?
Then if I moved in with her, I wouldn't be alone, and she'd be always there to help me when I ever feel down or something's bothering me or something like that.
Does it really upset you when you think about that, or you just a little bit? You're just like, that would be nice, or do you like cry sometimes, or?
It would be nice. It would be nice if like any girl would stop like friends zoning me.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Love on the Spectrum, that TV show on Netflix?
Like I've heard of a movie called Love and Monsters, but not that.
Love and Monsters?
Yeah.
Is that about autism too, or?
No, it's just like just a movie in general.
Oh, okay.
But
well, should we talk to your parents too?
I think I should give them a chance to explain like things about me and.
Okay. So he was a little aloof.
Well, that's kind of the standard response.
So we have OCD or ADD or that, was it ODD?
Objective defiance disorder?
Yeah, and he's like, I don't know. I was like, oh, okay.
He's not diagnosed with ODD.
No, he's not.
ADHD. Autism spectrum, sensory processing, hearing impairment. I think that's it.
Intellectual learning delay.
Yeah, and intellectual disability too. So sometimes autism spectrum kind of puts all those things, like it helps put all those things kind of in one label.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So is that what basically autism is just all those things combined?
No, so all those things would be what they call comorbid conditions that are often associated with autism. So a lot of people who have autism have a lot of those challenges. So at the super high end functioning level, they might have OCD, ADHD, things like that. At the other end, there'll be intellectual disabilities, physical disabilities. Common throughout is things like anxiety and depression. Very common, not always.
Yeah.
And I mean, the problem is it's a spectrum, right? So
yeah.
It's super broad, and it is kind of a catch-all. But autism itself is not expressed by some of those things. It's just the association is often very close.
Right. Okay. So I tried to get him to talk about his anxiety a bit, and he mentioned. Well, actually, I had to think of it for him because it was like crowds, the boat, heights. Is there other stuff that you realize
Oh yeah.
For him,
like compared to neurotypical? Neurotypical people.
Yeah. So one of the things he really struggles with, he does have a tendency toward agoraphobia, and it's just that whole thing of not knowing. best understanding of how he describes it is just not knowing what's going to happen, not being able to plan. His life in the house is very simple. He's able to plan. He knows, and he pretty much knows what questions Garth and I are going to ask him, or what to expect when the doorbell rings or whatever. But when he goes out in public, he doesn't. It's that lack of control over what's going to happen, really.
Which surprises he hates.
Yeah, which can be a
100%.
symptom of autism for sure. And so like routine and structure, super important for him. So back in the day, like even when we were coming out here from Calgary, when we would come out for a couple weeks, we would have to start talking to him about it a couple months before. We're coming out, this is where we're going, this is what we're going to do. And we would use like visual calendar aids, like even like when we take trips like to Disneyland, this day we're going to Disneyland, this day we're going here. And the more visual support we could give him and the more processing time, the better. But if we said to him, hey, we're going here right now, like especially
Panic attack.
Younger,
Yeah, that's his least favorite thing in the whole world, is if you just say to him, we need to go to Sobeys right now. He's like, no. And then if you do get him in the car to go to Sobeys, he wants to stay in the car. He doesn't want to go in the store.
Yeah.
He just wants to, it's a big issue for him.
Like his standard answer to everything when first asked is no.
No.
Hey, Teague, you want to go see the new James Bond movie? No. Apart from the things that he knows he can control. So, hey, do you want to get this new video game? Yes. Like right away.
Yeah.
But it is that unknown, and it's that not being sure what the right thing is to do.
Right. So is his anxiety a bit like I have anxiety too, but so if there's something that gives me anxiety, if I can push through it and do that thing the first time, then I don't have it the second time, kind of thing. Is he a bit like that, or it'll still just give him anxiety no matter what?
It doesn't work quite like that. He needs to do things again and again and again, and we need to provide the structure around it again. But it takes a really long time for him to accept that that's what's happening. So like going to the garden.
Right.
The first year he went to the garden, we had to start preparing him on Monday for going Thursday. And then once he figured out this is what's going to happen, this is how it's going to be, he was in his groove.
Right. Okay.
So it's more about giving him a sense of structure around change that he can manage than it is about pushing through it that one time.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah, the more you can expose him to a thing, the better he's going to be. I think that, for most people, that is a truth in life, right? But for him, the more you can expose him to, taking him out on random trips to Sobeys or Market Mall or wherever to go shopping or whatever, the more we can expose him to that, the better it's going to be. But it also becomes quite exhausting on our end of things. So sometimes it's just easier to say, it's fine, I'll just go by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so like for instance, like going to a wedding and the small talk at a wedding. Lots of us don't love that, and especially like the 20th time we've had the same conversation with someone, he's very bottom line, and he'll just be like, well, what's in this? Like, why bother doing this? Like, what's in it for me? And and he doesn't fake it till he makes it, and he just doesn't care.
It's true.
And there's no convincing him.
Yeah, he'll just be in the middle of a conversation with you, and if he's kind of lost or done, he just picks up his iPad. And people don't know what to do with that, right? They're just like, oh, it's like, it's the way he rolls, man. It's the way he rolls.
I've noticed him do that.
Sometimes when he feels overwhelmed, though, that is his way of trying to get some control back, right? I'm just going to pick up my iPad. We used to have come and go Christmas parties at our home in Calgary, and we would have 40, 50, 60 people run through our house in the evening. And there would always
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah. It was Alberta during COVID too.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
But we would set up a whole thing for kids downstairs. We'd have activities, we'd have movies, whatever. And about, I don't know, an hour in, you'd just see Teague walking up to the bedroom, and Teague would put himself to bed regularly. And it wasn't because he was tired, but that was his way of just like saying, I've tapped out. I don't know how to deal with this anymore. I'm just going to go to sleep. So he would do that regularly. And now, as an adult, he he doesn't do the sleeping thing, but he does tap out, and that's where he buries himself in his iPad or whatever. He just doesn't know how to, when he's not coping very well, it's just like, I'm just going to do this because I know what to expect on my coloring app.
So where you can see that in his everyday life, like he really wants to be perceived as smart and competent and capable. And so if he has built a rapport with you and there's things you share, he's totally at ease. And he's actually really good at explaining things to people and helping instruct them and guide them and all of that. But he needs to feel like he's got that degree of competence, and it's something that he really is into and really understands. Whereas all the variables outside of that, like even doing things like going up to Dairy Mart and ordering a burger, for him, he's got to process it through, you got to talk it through, because he doesn't know who the other person on the other side is. He knows what he wants, but he doesn't know what they're going to say to him.
Right. Subway is the worst place to take him for food, because there's too many options. They ask him too many questions, and they want to rush you through there.
Yeah.
They want you to answer right away. And he's just like, the Subway is the worst for him. He just goes in, he's like, ham, cheese, lettuce.
Bye.
Yeah.
Well, whereas like skip the dishes is ideal.
Yeah.
He just goes through.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got time to make a choice, right?
It's funny, yeah, these are the kind of the things I was hoping he would say to me, but he doesn't even consider that like a thing. Like, I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't think he processes his anxiety quite this. So he used to be a little more on the OCD side with things. So he'd hear stuff on the news. There was, a tornado or whatever. We'd get a tornado warning on his phone.
Oh, yeah.
And then he would obsess about the tornado for the next 4 or 5 days. He'd be asking about tornadoes before he went to bed or whatever. He seems to be managing that a little bit better as he's gotten older. Or maybe he's just processing it differently.
He uses Google a lot to look up things and find.
Yeah, he's got access to more information. Maybe that's it. He can kind of answer his own questions now. But we had tornado warnings in Calgary. We went through a summer where there were 2 or 3 funnel clouds actually spotted in Calgary. And those, for like a week after he'd see those, he would be just like ruminating over that. We'd just be in the middle of a totally different conversation at dinner, and he would ask a question about a tornado. We're just like, oh, you're still working through that, friend. I'm sorry. But
yeah,
he mentioned that I kind of asked him about being lonely or had depression, and he mentioned when his brother moved out, that's kind of when he started really getting lonely. Did you notice once his brother moved out that he was a little more depressed? Or
well, it's really hard because like he has friends that he wants to have over and he's desperate to have them over, and then they both come over and you go into the room and Teague's on the gaming system and the other guy's surfing the internet looking at movie titles and whatever, and they don't seem like they're interacting. Yeah. But they're getting from that moment what feeds them. Yeah. So we can't put on it, like our own stuff. So I don't know if we noticed a huge difference when Connor moved out.
He would mention he was sad. And I think, even when Connor lived with us, they didn't do a ton together. Right. But I think maybe in the back of Teague's mind that just that availability that his brother was there. Right. But
he did mention, like, when he gets together with Craig even, like, they're doing 2 different things, but he just really likes having him there. Yeah. And he doesn't feel lonely then. He feels secure. He feels safe. It's nice. And
we try to do the same with him. We try to get him to come and, even if he's just sitting, he likes to color a lot on his iPad, these like coloring programs. And even if he's just sitting in the room while we're playing a game or watching TV, it's good for his psyche because he feels, there. And even doing things like cooking with him or working in the garden with him, he doesn't seem like he's doing a lot sometimes, but he'll come home and he'll talk about all the things that happen. And you realize that, and I think a big part of Connor moving out, the difficult thing for Teague is, he's got all these executive functioning challenges that come with autism, and then he's got his severe intellectual disability on top of it. But he wants a regular life. He wants a girlfriend. He wants a house. He wants all these
mentioned that
things, right? Yeah. And he doesn't know really how to get them. He doesn't really know if he'll ever get them. But like having Craig there, like they've talked about being roommates. Right. And they would need support and structure, but that would be a good thing for him intellectually.
Yeah. Yeah, I discussed that with him about having a girlfriend. I don't know if you know on Netflix show Love on the Spectrum.
We haven't watched it yet.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it is so
we've
good.
heard it's really good.
Yeah. So anyway, I gotta talk to him about. He's like, I'd like to do that. And I said, do you feel different than other people? Like, do you feel like you have a disability? He's like, no. So that must be tough for him to like.
Completely.
Like, what's the word I'm trying to say? Like, compute that.
Yeah.
You know, like everyone else has this stuff. Why can't I?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has perseverance beyond like if I had been rejected by girls as many times as he has, because he falls in love very quickly.
Right.
He doesn't read all their signals, and vice versa in his community. But he'll very often like, I really want to date you and I want to be with you, and then they'll write back, I just want to be your friend, and you know, that typical letdown stuff. He just be like, okay.
Right.
You know, I'd be like, well, okay.
My soul is crushed.
Yeah, I don't want to be around you anymore.
And I don't want to talk to you
I'm
anymore.
embarrassed to be around
And
him.
he's still super friendly, and you know.
Yeah, he mentioned being friend zoned.
Yeah.
It
does
happens.
happen too.
He has had a girlfriend a few times,
Yeah.
and you know, and that's an interesting challenge. But you know, people like Teague deserve to have an intimate life. They deserve to have the same feelings and emotions and attachments that all the rest of us have.
Yeah.
You know, it's just how does that happen for him?
Yeah.
What does
How
that
do you
look like?
navigate that for them?
Well, this Love on the Spectrum, it's actually a woman that's her job is setting up these dates and stuff. So anyway, it's really cool because she does, you know, her research. She meets everybody before they meet and stuff, and it almost never works out. They all get friend zoned or they get super anxious on the date, and it's like I gotta go home.
Yeah.
But it's still a really heartwarming, sweet show.
Okay, I'll watch it. Sometimes those shows we started to watch when they're from the UK, and it was just too hard.
It's
like,
too real to our life.
I can
we
see
just
that.
live this, so it's just too hard to watch. But something that's a little bit lighter, a little bit more fun, I can.
I mean, and you know,
get into.
you know, 3/4 of my team at our company are on the spectrum. Mm-hmm. 10 of them have totally functional, I would say more sexually functional, healthy lives than many neurotypicals.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have the intellectual disability piece. So, you know, it's a different way of processing.
Right. And that's something you mentioned before, is actually like sexuality and stuff like that is very different in that community.
Totally. There's not the same hang-ups.
Huh.
They don't have the same hang-ups that lots of neurotypicals have.
Huh.
It's good.
Yeah.
We can learn from them.
Yeah. Well, we talked about some, you know, I tried to dig a little bit about mental health, but he was talking about all the different positives that Greg has. He's got a really great memory and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, there is some very...
That is kind of the fun thing about that community, actually. They don't see each other's shortcomings. They actually do look, and they can see the ways that their friends are amazing. It's really fun, actually.
But the tragic thing in that community is suicide rate is very high, depression is very high, and someone would go, you know, with all of those gifts and strengths, and then they're gone. And part of it is not having the support and help to really be able to process the feelings and emotions and talk about their mental health in a way that other people can relate to, and so they just carry. And you know, lots of the people we know who, you know, seem very happy and very together, very suicidal quietly. And when you start talking to families, they're dealing with all of these challenges that no one on the outside would ever have seen.
Yeah.
And it just washes over them in waves of emotion, and then they don't know how to process it, really.
Right.
So then it can be very self-destructive.
So the suicide rate is a lot higher than the neurotypical...
At least as high, sometimes higher. Depends on the populace.
Oh.
But yeah, it can be very high. And also amongst families who have these people in their family, because the mental health challenge is incredible.
Yeah, that's kind of where I want to go next, is talk about your guys' mental health.
Well, divorce rate's way higher in our community than typical. Depression, way higher than typical. Poverty, way higher than typical, because if you have, you know, a child who needs support 24/7, one of you stays home. then you have a single income in a world where a dual income is pretty much required these days in order to just keep your head above water. So, and extra costs, extra medical costs, extra support costs. So
It just, I'm assuming as a new parent, as a child that's autistic, 4 years and younger, that must be completely overwhelming. Like, especially if you have a child that, like, I'm guessing with your older son, you cannot compare your second kid to your first one. It's like, this is way harder. Like, what the hell's going on here? Like, do you guys, you must have supports for your being parents?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about the community is the other families are always willing to be helpful, and but within the family that's been hard, like within our born family, but within the family of the community, we have become friends with quite a few couples who have children who are like Teague, because a lot of it is because you can go out to a restaurant with your kids and the other couple isn't sitting there judging how your kid behaves at dinner or what they do or they don't interact or whatever, because they get it. It's just so much easier. It is so much easier sometimes to hang out with other people, especially when the kids are younger and their behaviors are less under control. It's just so much easier to hang out with other people who get it, because there is a lot. Teague had a meltdown on me at EB Games once in a big mall in Calgary Market Mall.
He's quite little.
Yeah, he was about 7. And it was a full-on meltdown. Lying on the floor, screaming, pounding the ground. I couldn't pick him up. And, people are funny, because instead of looking at you with empathy, people look at you with judgment. It's like, why can't you get your kid under control? And I was with my sister, and she looked at this one gentleman who just shook his head and went, oh. And Laura, my sister, just looked at him and said, what would you like her to do? How would you like her to handle this? Because, yeah, it's funny how humans are funny, man.
Yeah.
So that event must have been upsetting for you.
Oh, it's horrible. On the level of, so as a mom, watching your kid completely lose their being and not be able to pull themselves back is hard. As a parent and a human, it's just mortifying. And stressful. Like, the stress is ridiculous. He did it also in Superstore one day, and I had to pull him out of the store, kicking and screaming, and security actually followed me and wanted to see what was in my bag, because they were worried that I hadn't paid for the items that were in my bag. Like, somehow I was using this as an opportunity to steal things. And I was like, really, this is really, really, really not what I need right now, as I'm trying to shove my kid in the car and just close the door. Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of times it's just like that. It's mortifying, but it's also so stressful. And, yeah, you're just, like, emotionally, you're just done. Like, after an incident like that, it's just like, I just need to check out for, like, an hour. So I'm done. I just can't manage this anymore.
Yeah.
And people don't really understand what it's like there's a mourning and a grieving process that you go through when you realize that your hopes and dreams for your child are just never going to happen in the way that you had hoped. And not that Teague won't have a great life, but retirement is a party of 3. Our greatest fear is not that our child will die before we do. It's that we'll die without leaving sufficient resources to care for him when we're gone. And you just go through this grieving sense of loss process, and then people don't get it. Like, they don't understand why you might want to go away together when your kids are little for 4 days to a hotel and just eat and chill out and do whatever, because it's literally 24/7. And Teague, as now, he's much more functional. He's had lots of support and help, which is one of the great benefits of having lived in Alberta. Alberta is the best place in North America for support. And and like that support that Kathryn was talking about, that you have from peer support, we've tried out here desperately to find other people. Like, we've been out here for almost 18 months because of COVID. There's no infrastructure that's the same. There's no way to connect with other people easily who have a similar person. And I got to think about all the families who, as soon as their kid turns 18 and they disappear and they fall off the cliff, the family falls off the cliff because there's no more connection. So like in small towns like Indian Head and Fort Capel, the young people leave and they go to cities.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then so they're not around, and so it's that process of coming to understand that you just have to change your own perspectives for your life, your own desires to do, to buy a Harley and drive through down to the end of South America. Unless it has a sidecar, it's not happening.
Yeah.
With Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So.
Or you spend another 10 grand finding someone to stay with them.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
To support them at home.
Right. So most people don't have those kinds of needs. So they just, all that stuff just goes.
Yeah. There is definitely a grieving process with diagnoses. There's a certain level of relief because when you get a diagnosis, it means there's going to be supports and funding and there's going to be doctors that you'll be referred to. You'll finally get some answers. But there's that whole grieving process of, when you're 18 and you're graduating from high school, you're looking around going, the world is my oyster. I'm going to do this with my life and this and this. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, my life is completely changed now. So it is an interesting journey.
And you're not always capable of having the patience and the process, like all the stuff that he needs. There's just times where you just think, shut the oomph up and get in the oomph car so we can go, because we've got to do it, right? And you're just at the end of yourself. And then you come back and you think, oh my God, and
you have a guilt trip and
oh my gosh, guilt
and anxiety.
So much guilt.
We end up with anxiety about stuff like change and process. And what if this doesn't go well? What if that doesn't happen?
How old was he when he was diagnosed?
He was older.
He was 7 when he was diagnosed with ADHD and the sensory processing.
And intellectual disability.
And the intellectual disability. And then we had him, before he moved into high school, we had him reassessed. Because going into high school, it would make the difference as to what programming he would go into within the school system. So we got private, we paid some large dollars to have him privately assessed. So that's when he was diagnosed on the autism spectrum.
And then we had that confirmed by another person a second time, just to be sure.
Yeah, so...
But, he was born very prematurely, like 7.5 weeks premature. And then in his first year, he had a really tough time. And then in his first year of life, he got the chickenpox from his brother and ended up with a staph infection in his skin and a super high fever and having to be massively dosed with antibiotics. Like, they actually gave us the "your kid's going to die" talk. And they said this will affect his hearing most likely, which it did. And so we're not sure.
So the antibiotics affected his hearing?
Because of the fever, and they gave him a massive dose of antibiotics.
Antibiotics can.
We were living in the UK at the time, and they said this is a almost guaranteed outcome, but if we don't, he won't live. So you do that. And then you have a child who doesn't talk till he's 3, doesn't really crawl or move till he's 3, and you realize, my goodness, and so you don't know what happened, whether it was all that premature stuff or whether it was the genetics of autism but he's had a rough go from the beginning. And then people say to you, oh, well, he'll grow out of it. It's like, okay.
How many times? Well, we heard that from medical people.
It's like saying, you've got brown eyes, but they'll change.
Yeah.
Okay.
My first experience with a pediatrician who specializes in children with special needs, first thing he said to me is, okay, Mom, he's only 4. He'll grow out of it. We're like, what the heck? I think I know better. It's not like you just know. As a parent, you just know. No, there is something really not working. Things are not working together here. There is stuff that's just not right.
Yeah, I have another child. I can compare and contrast.
Yeah, who walked at 9 months and talked before a year, right? So a completely different end of the spectrum, if you like.
Right, yeah.
But so many times you hear this stuff from people and you're like, okay, and you have that half a second where you're like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he will catch up. There's always hope, right?
It's funny, we had the opposite. We had like the nurse that comes to your house and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a
I'm
name
sure
for
they call her in England, but I know what you mean.
Doesn't matter, anyway.
Or him.
And she's like measuring our kids' heads and like, oh, his head's too big for his body. Oh, keep an eye on that. Oh, maybe we need more testing and stuff. What are you talking about? Why are you scaring us? He's just got a big head. Like,
Right.
shut the hell up.
Right.
Or it's always, he's too thin, and keep it. Was he breastfed? Was he? So yeah. I've always gotten the opposite. So it's
Yeah.
in a way refreshing that.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. But as over the years, it just becomes, if you take the time to do the work and process and talk to people and talk through your stuff, and it's not easy, but now for him, it's sort of, you change your expectations of what actualization looks like and what affirmation looks like, because all of us draw a tremendous amount of identity from the things we do. I mean, if I first meet you, one of the first 3 questions I'm probably going to ask you is, what do you do? Right? And why do we ask that? Because it's part of where people get their identity from. And so for him, he gets his identity from different things than we would have expected, and it's just a question of sort of figuring that out and level setting. And like even with his fire starter business this summer, a lot of people go, oh, isn't that sweet? Actually, no, like he really wants to do this. He really believes in this. He thinks that he can create something, and he's not a salesperson, so he's not going to convince you of it. But there's that kind of tone of voice that people use, and happened at the market. Isn't that sweet? It's like, would you talk to me like that at 54? Well, maybe my mom would, but nobody else would walk up to a stranger selling something and go, oh, isn't that cute?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
Actually, we talked about that too. I said, do you hate baby talk? He's like, it makes me furious.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Because he knows what's behind it.
Yeah. Yeah, he does not like to be talked down to, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing of affirmation for him in the whole summer was that he had repeat customers. That people came back and said, these really work and I'd like more.
Right.
For him, that was he didn't celebrate. Well, he talked to us about it, but he didn't celebrate it in the moment. He just stood there and said, thanks. Here's your $5.
Right?
Yeah, he's got a poker face.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, you should get him gambling.
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
No, anyway. Very wrong. Very wrong.
Yeah, I've seen him at the market where it's like he's just sitting on his iPad or whatever, and it's funny that because like you see a different Teague when you're not around. Like we've talked about him and how he's different when you guys aren't there, but it's also vice versa too. It's like he's different with you guys when we're not around. So
right.
There's times I'm like, oh man, this guy's just tuning me out or whatever, and then you tell me later that he's talking about me.
Yeah.
So it's like,
that is what he's like. So sometimes, if you're watching a movie that's pretty intense or whatever, he'll pick up the iPad and start coloring, and you assume it's like he's not paying attention.
Yeah.
But 2 days later, he'll talk to you about everything that he heard and sort of watched out of the corner of his eye during that whole period. It's like he needs something else to concentrate on while he's trying to figure out what's being presented to him. And it all goes in. It just takes a few days for it to come out sometimes.
It's like it's his fidget.
Yeah.
Like I realized during COVID, when you spend so much time looking at yourself on Zoom or Teams or whatever, I have a fidget. And I wasn't aware that I had it, and it's like he needs to do this in order for his brain to process his feelings and emotions in a way that he can cope with.
Yeah.
Right.
And then later on it comes out. So it's, still water is running deep, I guess, but and then you never know what's going to come out. Like sometimes, so this is when we first saw this. We went to Disneyland. We moved back from England, 2004. And that May, we took the boys on a super cheapo AMA, CAA trip to Disney. And we drove. And we stayed at this motel thing. And we went back 3 or 4 years later, because your sister is in San Diego, and so we're driving down the I-5, and Teague says from the back seat, so Teague would have been 4.
The first time.
Mm-hmm. So we're driving down the I-5, and he said, they can see the signs for, Anaheim. And he says, "Hey, Dad, remember, don't take this exit because it takes us a long way around. Take the next one."
Right? And he's like,
And I'm like, you can't tie your shoes.
Yeah.
Like,
You learned to talk a year ago.
Yeah. Like literally he was virtually nonverbal the first time we went.
yeah.
Huh.
Crazy, right? Like, who knows what's going on up there?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is an interesting journey. Sometimes he comes out with stuff and you're just like, wow. And he's so when he looks like he's tuning you out, sometimes he's a very strong observer of people. And he will come back and he will make the most astute comments about people or what they were saying or whether or not he believes what they were saying based on how they were presenting and stuff. Really interesting because one of his things is he's always looking for nonverbal clues. That's how he's assessing how you're responding to him and how you want him to respond to you. And so he's always navigating that. It's really interesting sometimes the things that he comes out with and you're like, wow, that was really astute. Like, you were really watching. Yeah. Those are the fun, there's lots of fun stuff that happens too that you just think and his sense of humor can be very witty and sharp, right? And you're just like, okay, wow.
Like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Like, he's really good at Cards Against Humanity.
Oh, yeah.
And playing that with your kid is weird, but but he's really good at it. And he appreciates the innuendo and stuff of that. I mean, he's very base too, right? Like fart jokes and all that stuff, as you know, are totally his thing.
Yeah.
But
That's why he likes me.
Well, that did definitely warm him to you.
But he, like, the one day, like, we have a double door bathroom off our owner's suite at home, and I'm sitting in bed, I'm under the duvet, and I've propped up my reader against my leg, and it's, but when you walk in, all you can see is my leg sticking up underneath the duvet, and he looks and he goes, "Dad, that better not be your penis." And I was like, "What?" And then he just closes the door, laughs, and goes away, right? And he's like, and I'm like, where would that come from? Like, where would that?
Yeah.
And he was quite young at the time, and it's like, okay, but he knew it made me uncomfortable because he gave me this look. Like, haha, I've made you squirm. And then he just leaves. And I'm like, yeah, you made me squirm. Never speak of this again.
Until it's recorded.
Right?
Yeah,
I was just saying.
that's right. Well,
Until you do.
actually, what I said back to him was, I said, if that was my penis, I'd have a different job. But
That make him squirm?
Yeah.
No.
Well, he just, I'm sure, in his own way. But he does have a wicked sense of humor. And he does read people. If he likes you, it says a lot about you. If he doesn't like you, it says a lot about you. and we listen to that, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like if your dog doesn't like someone, you pay
Yeah,
attention.
yeah.
If Teague really doesn't like somebody, it's like, oh, that's very interesting. Okay.
I don't know where that comes from, but his emotional IQ is pretty good with that stuff with people.
All that nonverbal observation.
Yep.
So now that he's an adult, are you finding there's less stressful, less mortifying?
He doesn't. Yeah, I mean the behavior stuff. Definitely, he can manage his own behaviors.
Or I guess it's just
Much
different.
more.
It's
different. So now,
different challenges.
I think now it's the future casting stuff.
Right.
It's knowing what does his life look like, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and what can we? So now it's like, what can we do now to give him the best skills to move him forward into more independence? And that's, and some of that looks scary, like just leaving him. I mean, we're supporting him at the farmer's market, but leaving him selling his product at the farmer's market is like, okay, this is your thing, you've got to do it. But that's scary for us as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, right now it's just different. It's like, what does 10 years from now look like? What does 25 years look like? And as we get older too, I mean, we're not, as he ages, so do we. So we are, right now we're just finished up the second set of adjusting our wills with our lawyer, because just to understand, there has to be so much stuff put in place to make sure that he's cared for as an adult if anything happened to us.
Right.
So it's different stuff now. It's not not as much about getting him to intellectual or physical gains. It's about kind of pushing him in and giving him the best future we can give him.
Yeah, making sure that he doesn't. I mean, he would sit in his room all day and just play video games if that's what you just sort of let him do. So our job
Jack
now
is like that.
Yeah, right.
I mean, so now our job is more like being a coach than a parent. It's more like, okay, you said you wanted to do these things. Well, how are we going to do this? You have to earn money. And it's level setting for him every day how life is. But knowing that he's never going to be able to take care of himself completely.
Right.
He's always going to need that input, and he knows that too on a level. But and then there's his brother. So his brother says to all the girls he's dated, if you date me and we end up together, you get him. So imagine being 15 and knowing that. So the responsibility you carry,
It's a lot.
from the time you're a kid without ever having had this sort of, I'm going to go to, the far reaches of the planet and, do whatever, because this is my vision. You're thinking about that.
Do you think, or even for you guys, have you ever resented? I mean, I know you love Teague and all that, but have you ever resented that you were dealt this hand?
100%.
Sure.
Yeah.
100%. It's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Yeah.
And especially since there's so many people you look at and think, you're an asshole and you've got the world by the tail. You've screwed a bunch of people over to make a bunch of money and your whole life is just gold. It's not fair.
Right.
There is a level of jealousy. I look now and I think I've got a 21-year-old and 24-year-old, and people I know who have typical children of the same ages are my age are just doing whatever they want. They could just pick up and say, Garth could come home on a Friday and say, let's go to Banff for 2 days, throw stuff in a bag and off you go. We don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
I can't even sit around in my underwear in my living room.
What?
Well, you know what I mean? Like, there's the boy, right?
Yeah.
I definitely can't walk around the house naked.
Yeah. So, I think so resentment, yes. Bitterness, no. But, definitely, especially when people don't get it. Like when they don't understand, like they don't get it. Like they just have no way of understanding it. So then there's this kind of like, well, we're off to do this and we're doing that. And, and it's like, well, that's good for you. Go enjoy that.
How long can you leave him alone, do you think? Like not overnight at all?
No, I don't think so. No. Maybe he's got such impulse stuff.
Yeah, it's the hard part.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've drilled it into his head, it's the safety thing for me. Right. Don't let people in, if the doorbell rings, you cannot open it. It doesn't matter if you think you know who it is. If you're not expecting someone, you cannot open the door. But how many times that's happened? He's like, oh, it's fine. It was just the delivery guy or whatever. But it's like, you don't know. But also, like... Is
that a him problem or a you problem?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, like, we went out the one night and the Nest is going off because he put the popcorn in for 22 minutes and 20 seconds and left the room. So there's a fire in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
So it's just that safety
that kind of stuff. And he just...
Would he know what to do?
It's not really caretaker. It's not like babysitting. It's just, in a lot of ways, it's just safety measures.
Yeah.
For him to feel secure and for you to feel secure that he's not going to do something.
But like, so we say we did go away for 3 days and we put, a bunch of cans of food and a bunch of, pizza pops and stuff. We'd come home and he might have eaten for all 3 days.
Yeah. That's the other thing.
I see.
He doesn't his self-care awareness is very...
It's very challenging.
Minimal.
Right.
So, yeah, he doesn't eat.
Oh, and would he be hangry?
Oh, man. But then, also, like, he's not good with medicines. He doesn't read labels or whatever. He doesn't understand dosing. So he'd be like, okay, I have a headache. Oh, I'll just take this whole bottle of Tylenol. Like, there are lots of little things that you think.
Yeah.
He just, I don't know.
Right.
We haven't ever left him alone overnight. But, I mean, if we went out, if he had a day off from school and I had to go to work, he'd be alone for 6 hours by himself. And if I popped a sandwich on the counter and whatever, he wouldn't have eaten necessarily, but he would be okay. He'd just sit in his room.
Yeah, but he's getting much better over time. The more we do, the more it sinks in. Like, so when he first started his day program, we would have to cajole him about getting out of bed to get ready for the access driver who was coming to get him and things like that. And now, like, when we go away, he rises to the occasion. He sets an alarm, he gets himself up. He may or may not have combed his hair and brushed his teeth, but he's out the door and gone. And then he comes back, and he will, the more... So our job right now is to give him as more latitude than we think he should have, but not so much that it's dangerous, so that he can continue to stretch and grow, right? So it's that risk-fail culture that we need to foster with him.
Right.
And the balance, trying to figure out what the balance is.
But he will rise to occasion. So life with a supported roommate is a possibility for him, for sure. Having a regular job that he goes to, 5 days a week for 5 or 6 hours a day, totally in his realm, possibility. But managing finances and all of those pieces,
getting to doctor's appointments, even knowing what to do if you were sick.
He's got such a huge pain tolerance threshold. Like he just won't go to the doctor.
Right.
So
that day he had the toothache, it must have been really bad if he was that upset. That must have been really painful.
So true story about that. I took him, so they did the emergency pulpectomy in Fort Capel. And I took him back to the dentist in Calgary because that's only partially what needed doing. The root canal needed to be finished.
Right.
So I take him to the dentist in Calgary. He goes to a specialty dentist that's run out of the Foothills Hospital, and it's for adults with disabilities. So they're awesome there. But the dentist opens up Teague's tooth, starts working on it, and he goes, there is a ton of infection in this gum underneath what they had done. And he said they didn't give you any antibiotics when they did the first work. And I was like, no, we didn't get anything. Anyway, so he said, I do not understand how he is not writhing around on the floor in pain, because he said there's so much infection in there right now. Like, his pain tolerance is just ridiculous. So one of my things would be like, would he even know when he was ill enough that he needed to go to the hospital or tell somebody that he's really sick? Because, he just doesn't even, it's like that doesn't even process for him it's crazy.
Yeah. But he's made huge strides this year. Like, so prior to COVID, he would never have a flu shot. Like, he has such strong needle phobia. Like, we also had to take him for sedation dentistry. But anxiety and around needles, and we don't know where it came from. It came on over the years. I mean, he had a lot, and it just became the point where, like, we had to have him sedated to do dentistry. There was times when he was little, like when he was like 12, 13, where he'd have to be held down to have a blood test, which is horrible, right?
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
And this year, with all the processing with COVID, he made the intellectual decision that he needed to have the vaccine, and we went to the clinic, and we were expecting the worst. We had prepared him, we'd given him calming meds, and someone someone ahead of us was screaming while we're in the line.
Great.
And we're just sitting there going, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. And we went and sat down, he rolled up his sleeve, and done.
Yeah.
And ever since then, he's good.
Yeah.
Needles, fine. Regular dentistry, fine.
Yeah. Well, we've been drugging him.
But how did that happen?
To get him in the chair.
From the point where in the past he was semi-conscious, even with gas, and as soon as they'd start to go give him a needle, even though he's like completely out, as soon as he felt that, panic. So, he himself inside has intrinsic motivation that we don't understand.
Right.
And when it kicks in, I don't know. I don't know. If I could figure that out,
so that's the beauty and the frustration of it all.
Right?
Correct.
When it does happen, it's like the best thing ever. When he got through that whole dentist appointment and he just lay in the chair, it was like, I was crying. I left the dentist, I was crying. I was like, you have no idea how life-changing this is. And they're looking at me like I've got 3 heads. But yeah, if I could figure out how to tap into that, it'd be awesome.
Yep. So we're over an hour now.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, is there anything mental health wise you wanted to touch on for yourselves or about him or anything that something I forgot to ask or something that you thought of before?
I guess I would just say, out of my own personal experience, just having a person just having a person like Teague, it has made me more keenly aware of the struggles of other people, and not so from a mental health perspective. If someone doesn't look like they're doing great, or they're crabbing with me or whatever, it's that extra thing of, I understand that your life might actually not be as you're presenting. And it's given me a lot more grace for other people and how they respond.
And not to take it personally too, maybe?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you just don't know what's going on in other people's lives, right?
Yeah.
And also, if you need help, if you're getting to that point where you need some supports and help, there are people out there to do that with, and there are good people to talk to, and to encourage people that they do need to reach out, because we've seen it so many times in our community where parents have just hit rock bottom because they just thought that they were so alone. But there are places and there are people out there.
Yeah, and you have to find a place to process your guilt and your anger and your frustration, because something's been put on you that you didn't ask for. You've been handed a person that is yours for life, and that is a very difficult thing to deal with, and often you end up alone, or you end up facing judgment, or so finding that place where you can just be. I say give yourself a break on every level, intellectually, emotionally, and physically. You have to do that. And you have to find some way to find respite for yourself. And a lot of our friends won't leave their kids. They won't go away. It's because of fear of what happens to them. And I think if you can find that safe place and take that risk, because it's a big risk. Like the first time we left them overnight, it's like, oh, okay, hopefully it's okay. But if you don't do that, then how do you be well?
Yeah,
Well, I mean, I only met you at the beginning of the summer, but like you said, there's a lot of divorces and a lot of things, and it seems like you guys are pretty phenomenal parents, and we've
got you all fooled.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Man, you guys got your shit together. Holy moly.
Nobody has their shit together. Nobody has their shit together. It's just that sometimes people can handle their shit.
I guess. Yeah.
We've had a lot of support learning how to look like we have our shit together. We've got our shit together. There are days, man. There are days, and then there are other days, but at the end of the day, you know what?
And then there's wine.
At the end of the day, the thing it comes down to too is he didn't ask for this either.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're just gonna do the best we can do by him.
Doesn't seem to bother him though.
No.
No.
Fair enough.
He's pretty lucky.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Teague, Garth, and Kathryn. It was very, very nice of you to let us into your world a little bit and give us a perspective that many of us don't have. You guys really are a great family and great people, so once again, thank you so much for doing this. The next episode, as I said, it's Zach Williams. That's Robin Williams' oldest son, and we're going to be talking about addiction, his trouble with that, and a little bit about his dad's trouble with that as well. And yeah, it's a really great interview, and I'm so honored that he was willing to do this for me. So yeah, that's the next episode. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe, rate, and review however you are listening to this podcast. It only takes a moment, and it really helps the show out with getting noticed. This episode has been sponsored by Penny University Bookstore, 3104 13th Avenue. Call 639-571-2186 and check out their online bookstore at pennyu.ca. The Saskatchewan Podcast Network is supported by Connexus. Wellness, however you define it, is achievable. You don't even need to figure it all out by yourself. Talk to Connexus. They'll give you guidance, motivation, and the push you need to reach your goals. They've got you. They're your financial partner, and they know you can achieve your very best, your financial best. Prove them right. Start right at Connexus Credit Union. The Saskatchewan Podcast Network is also sponsored by Direct West. Are you a business owner looking for new avenues to promote your business? Direct West digital billboards are a great opportunity to highlight a new product, new promotion, or anything else you'd like your customers to know about. You can get local, expert marketing help for your business at directwest.com. If you are having a mental health crisis, please call the Canadian Crisis number at 1-833-456-4566. In Saskatchewan, the mobile crisis team in Prince Albert is 306-764-1011. In Regina, it's 306-525-5333, and in Saskatoon, it's 306-933-6200. Don't forget to check out my children's book, Sometimes Daddy Cries. Sometimes Daddy Cries is told through the eyes of a boy whose father suffers from depression. He sees his dad get sad, rest, and even go to the hospital, all while comparing his father's depression to a physical ailment. Available on Amazon.ca. I'll see you next time. This is Todd Redebaum saying, make your beds and take your meds. Bye.